What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Optimize You. We got a special guest today. It's actually a podcast that I did on my other podcast, Champion Mindset, before I closed it down. I wanted to make sure that I got this episode out somewhere because there's a lot of gold in it. It's amazing. It's with Amanda Aguiar, and she has done a lot of amazing things in business, talks mindset, we talk books, we go all over the board in this episode. It's amazing. If you're trying to start a business, if you're doing business right now, you're an entrepreneur, it's a great episode for you. If you're somebody who struggles with mindset, other things like that, it's also an amazing episode for you. So make sure you tune in and let's get to the episode. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Champion Mindset. We got an extra special guest today. She is a Brazilian living in Seattle, Washington. She speaks 3 languages, Portuguese, Spanish, and English. A world traveler. She's been to 22 countries. She sold a successful cleaning business in her 20s. She spent almost 15 years in tech consulting, and now she's in real estate, licensed in Washington State, building her business to be global, already covering 6+ states in the U.S., Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, all over the place. She's done so many things. I'm excited to have her on. Amanda Aguiar, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today, Alex. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here. And I'm excited to share some nuggets that maybe, can help your audience with any inspirations on their business, their mindset, who knows, start real estate, totally changing career path, wherever this call leads us today.
I love it. Well, I'm super pumped to have you on. I'm glad we connected in Arete and we could get you on because you've, as the bio said, like you've done so many different things in so many different areas of, like it's crazy, like cleaning, tech, real estate, all over the board. And I would love to go into that. But first off, I'd love for you to share just your story of even how you've gotten to this place in your life at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you kind of introduced, I'm from Brazil. And I moved to the States on my teens. It was totally like my parents' decision, just kind of looking for better opportunity for all of us, for finances, business, and for my education. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. So I finished, high school and college, got a business degree. And as I was going through college, my family, they're very handyman type of people. So and they still are, all of the business they have, they still have cleaning businesses that they built, over the decades, roofing company, painting company. So that's been, kind of a little bit of, I say the core of our family. So at a young age, I felt like, when I started with my cleaning business, my family, I kind of already had the backbone for that. And I kind of went in that journey as well as I was actually getting my degree in business. And, so I built the business. My business was completely out of referral, which was like amazing. And my mom actually was the one that was telling me that, she brought me here to go to school and she did not want to see me, cleaning houses. And even though my business was actually growing, but I was working so much that I had no time for my family. And then that's when I made the decision to sell my business after I was building for about like 7-8 years, and then kind of join, your corporate America, type of work. And so my first gig since then has been in consulting. I'm in Seattle, so tech industry is pretty huge in here. And had a friend that had an opportunity. They actually were looking for someone to provide high level support and to cover Brazil. So me speaking another language, it came handy. So I was dealing with all legal type of work that was sending over to Microsoft from Brazil. So that was a pretty awesome experience. But I always had this mentality, especially having a business degree, that, you want to walk on the place where you want to be, even if you're not there yet. So I have to say, I used to dress better than my managers did, even though, I was like on the first years of employment and whatnot. I was always very creative, bringing initiatives, bringing ideas, and kind of, got myself into management pretty quickly. I think it's just a way I love helping people. So I think it was a very natural thing for me to do. And with my, program management background that I got as a minor degree in business, that really helped me launch myself into the industry, and have helped $1 million accounts from different big companies here located in Seattle, and continue to support a lot of that, and I think the pandemic shook a lot of us just to figure like, what do you want to do with your life? And I think I was on that moment that I was feeling stagnant. I was working from home remotely, had teams in India and other locations in the US. And I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. I do love consulting, but I was just feeling my company was not giving me the opportunity to grow. And so I went in a 5 months of like interviewing in all the big corporations that you can think of, and I'll get some offers but never felt right. And one friend was putting a seed for a couple of years thinking like, Amanda, you're so personable, you have a good connection, why don't you try real estate? And it took some resignation, but then at the same time I say, why not? So I didn't leave my job originally because I wanted to go test the waters, with real estate. But I decided from day one, I was going to work in real estate as if it was full time. So I feel like I have two full time jobs. Not, I know people say part time because I always took that, as something that I wanted to give it a try. And if I hate it, at least I gave my best. But here I am a year and a half later. I absolutely love real estate. I wish I started like, a decade ago, but it's okay. I'm excited about my future in because of the, being a leader and coaching people in other areas of the business. It's been so easy for me. That's why I already been growing a team, of 16 plus people so far in this year and a half of joining real estate, because it's not about how much I know about the market, which is still important, but it's just helping people see their potential. And I feel like that's been, a huge advantage for me with my team and helping them.
I love it. That's awesome. That's a really cool journey that you've been on. And it's awesome that you said that the pandemic really pushed you to try that. Cause same
Yeah.
thing with me. I was in a 9 to 5 job, kind of had been hopping from, I was in like software,
Mm,
hopping from job to job. I was like implementation, software implementation. I was like, something's wrong here. Like I'm supposed to. I had initially been in baseball. Like I had played
mm,
some professional baseball, and that's all I really did up until that point was worry about sports. And I knew there was something physical that was going to be involved in mine. And I ended up getting into. I was like, I'm going to do health and fitness coaching. So I jumped into that while I still had my 9 to 5 during the pandemic, kind of like you doing something different. Because I was like, you know what? I don't know what sparked it in me. I don't know. I was thinking it was maybe like, almost the depressive nature of the pandemic brought
yeah.
people maybe through some different emotions. And it's like, wait, I don't want to feel like this on a regular basis. I want to live my life to the fullest. And so jump out and do something different and do something that I'm passionate about. So I think that's awesome. And I would love to go back to your first, business with the
Yeah.
cleaning business. You said something really cool, how most of your business was built on referrals,
Yeah.
which I think anybody who has a business out there would love for that to be the case. That means you're doing a really, really good job. I'd love for you to speak on some of the things that you did to help that be that way. If there's anything that you did like intentionally to create those referrals or to,
Hmm.
leave your clients with such a good experience that they almost had to tell people about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think again, I feel like, I always been meant to be a business owner of some shape or form because I'm always thinking outside of the box. I never did, your typical thing that maybe you get home and you see a flyer on your door, like, hey, here's a discount to clean your home or something like that. One, I didn't have the time. But I got like connected with key people. One of them was just, I build my referral business to my clients because I know, like, cleaning your house can be just an extra, right? Not everybody has that extra budget. It's a luxury maybe for to some. And so I was giving 50% back of that one cleaning, value to my clients every time that they gave me a referral. And I got one client. Sometimes it just takes one person to really, scale your business. And I had one client, she had twins kids, and she just went to her twins network and just brag about me, I actually, more than half of my clients either had twins or triplets, which was awesome. But that was one of the things, was really like, obviously, showing your care, being responsible, whatever you say you're going to do, that you do it, and, doing it with excellence. That's, it doesn't matter what kind of job you have. But then that was something that, that I created. And I have to say, she sometimes would go months without paying me anything because she was giving me new clients. And then another one was I kind of grow my business and connecting, funny enough, with real estate agents because, they will have rentals or, homes that were coming in the market. So I kind of became a preferred, cleaning company to some of the local companies in the area. And I'll work my normal quote unquote 9 to 5 in my clients database, that's regular. And I'll work in the evening and weekends doing all those other, work. And it was just like, honestly, that was the two things that totally drove my business. And to say the only one of the few reasons, not only because my mom told me so to go try the corporate world because I studied for that, but at the time I was just having time finding the right people to work for me, which I think it's a big thing when you're a business owner. I wanted to delegate because I wanted to grow. There was just so much that I could do, and I knew that I didn't want to be the person physically doing the work, day in and day out. So that was some of the limitations that at the time I felt that I was just having a hard time to scale because I was not finding, the right people to grow my business. And then just kind of just happened all of that. And then I decided to sell the business.
Gotcha. So it was basically do an amazing job for the clients, have like a great referral system so that they have incentive to do it. And then also like have connections. Because you said the
Absolutely.
real estate, like, connecting with people, talking with people, almost being creative in the way that you do your job, which is really, really interesting. I love that. And what would you say are three things that you learned, like the three biggest things that you learned from building and selling that first cleaning business?
Yeah, I think I would say the first one is just it's always hard to start, right? Owning a business, and we put so many blockages, how hard it's going to be, or you need to have a marketing plan or a business plan. In some cases, you might need to, depending if you're going to ask for some type of loan or investors or something like that. But there's a lot of business out there that either you're passionate, you have the skill set, and you just need to go, open that license that was going to cost you couple $100 and just go do it. I build through the years websites and business cards and what my brand is because I needed the income to come first, right? Before I got, I started like I was 19 years old. So I didn't have money to go build all of this branding, which I firmly believe on it, but that was not where I was at. So so first of all, just like if you have an idea, what do you have to lose, especially if it's not going to cost you that much money just to get started, and maybe it can be a side hustle or something that you can just fully, give yourself to it, for a while and make sure just to see what if it pans out. And then I think the other thing is just, you we're in the business of building relationship. I don't care what kind of business you are, even if you are an employee, we are building relationships. So I think understanding of other people's problems and being that solution, right? So if in my case was like, I knew family with kids, they have a lot of expenses. How can I support them to continue to bring that value of them feeling awesome with their home clean, but then also getting something back, which was helping me and helping them at the same time. So I think it's just like creating that win-win, type of initiatives that is going to help your business, but you're helping them, right? So you're bringing value. And then, third, it's just like taking the time. I feel like that was probably maybe why I didn't continue, which I'm okay. We have our journey, but sometimes we can be so busy with our business that we want to take a step back to teach others to grow, right? And in my case, when I was just finding hard time having people to work for me, and so I was just kind of like sometimes it was too hard to slow down all the growth that I was having to go train people to become, on the to do the same quality of work that I was doing, that I knew I could feel safe to say you could go handle this without me, being supervisor 24/7, and I can go continue to grow the business. So that was the three things I will share.
I love it. Those are amazing. And that's like that is the reason the first one is like that's why I didn't do this for so long is that it was like, ah, well, you think about all the reasons why it won't work, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just figuring it out, taking the first step and then every day after like what can I do today to move the needle forward? Right? I think that that's awesome. And what you said that you worked so hard, right? It sounds like in that first business you were working
Yeah.
day, night, weekends, everything. What drove you to like continue pushing that hard for that long? Because I think you said like 7, 8 years that you had the
Yeah.
business and that you were working like day in, day out. You couldn't really handle the growth and you couldn't find people that could do as good of a job as you or maybe take on that kind
Hmm.
of responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, you actually just touched on the word as you're asking the question. I feel like I just felt responsible, right? If someone is giving me their, one, trust, right? Because they're trusting me to come to their homes. They were not home. I had access to everything. So building that trust. So it was something I built so much relationship. I actually have some of those clients, 15 years later that I still see how big their kids are growing because we're connected on Facebook and things like that. So I'm a very relational person. So I think it was just like, always striving to do better every day. And so that was a little bit harder for me. And I really believed in the business, right? I mean, like, I feel like when you have a business, you have a passion for it. And I had the mindset that I wanted to grow and to expand. So I think I was just pushing the limits, because I believed in it and I wanted to see into fruition. And then when I kind of gave myself a goal, like this year, I'm going to focus on the growth of my team. And then that was the year that was super difficult finding the right people. That it was more maybe my call out. I was just like, wow, I am missing, my grandparents came to visit from Brazil. I barely saw them because I'm working so much. Or physically, I would get home and I felt like I couldn't, move my hands because I was so tired of working and cleaning all day. So that was just some of those things that I felt was a blocker for me. And I think, it's always those blessings in disguise. Sometimes I know we want to push through and sometimes we have a breakthrough, and that breakthrough can be to either saying like, wow, I'm taking out the business to the next level, or being wise enough to know my time is up on this thing, let me go try something else.
That's awesome. I think that's huge. And you talked a lot. You've talked a few times about relationships, right? Connections and how big that plays into business. And
Absolutely.
is has that been something that you were just like always good at, like connecting with people, building relationships, or is it something that you've worked at throughout your career to grow at? And if so, like what have you done to get better at that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think naturally I am a connector. I feel like, I when I meet someone new, you will get my full attention. I want to pay attention what you have to say. I'm very inclusive, like I met you today. I'm already probably inviting you to my house party next week, like, because that's kind of maybe it's a cultural thing or coming to the US as well. And I just always people to feel welcome. In Seattle, there is a term in here that they say the Seattle freeze. And I always wanted to break that because, you meet new people. So I'll be like, whatever is happening in my life in the next month, they're going to get an invitation, right? If they're going to come or not. So that was something that was a little bit natural of me. But I think as I grew older and mature and, I always, business has been a passion. Um, I always felt like, some of it was being, intentional, right? Like also not only just meet anyone for because I went to an event, but I also intention like, what are some of the connections that I want to make, for my next move or what I'm trying to accomplish, in the beginning, like in my consulting career, I'm very grateful. I had someone as a leadership over me that, I always saw my potential before I even saw that. So I think I learned so much from him. He was a very inspiration. So I feel like, I still carry some of those traits that I learned from someone else that he spoke over my life. And so now I feel like added that to my backpack, right? So I feel like it's things like that. You meet people that is gonna pour on you, and then you can't keep that to yourself. You have to, you know, give to someone else that are starting. So it is always awesome when someone reach out to me and say, can you help me with this? And even if something I haven't done in a long time, but for some reason they thought of me, right? It's either from a past relationship, it is because maybe they're following me on social media and they found inspired on something that I said. But just kind of being real, you know. And but I am very into self growth, so I read a lot of books. I am a more audiobook. I was never that kid that actually read a lot of books, so audiobook is my favorite thing in the world. So I spend a lot of time there, and there's, I'll say, I'm not like the one that's going to read a fiction or a novel or something like that. If I'm going to spend time, I want to, you know, to be something that I can learn from it. That's been just, you know, me. So I'm constantly like, you know, listening, you know, obviously, you know, being part of Arte, and Ed was already like someone I was following for a while. And, you know, I just feel a lot of similarity of the things that he says in there. So that's a little bit of just like some natural, but, you know, you there's always more opportunity to grow. So that's kind of my avenues of learning. It's just, you know, listen to people like at my lad or others, you know, and then also just, you know, a lot of audiobooks or podcasts and things like that.
I love it. Ed's like my favorite person ever. He's
I know.
so interesting, so good at like interviewing, so knowledgeable on just a wide range of things, and just seems like he cares so much about
Yeah.
people, which is amazing. It's somebody I aspire to be more like. But I love that you said, but I'm such a big reader too. I love reading. Curious, what are some of the best books that you've read? Maybe recently. I know for me, if somebody asked me this question, I would really struggle. I'd really struggle if they're like, "What's the best book you've ever
Yeah.
read?" Right?
Yeah.
Like, but like, what are some of the best books you've read? Let's say in the last 3-6 months.
Yeah, I was just like, where did I put my phone? Because I was thinking maybe that question was gonna come, and I did not want to just totally, you know, blow it off. But so one book that, you know, being part of real estate, one of our leaders in there, he's very into like mindset and, you know, reading books. And he, you know, gave a book for us to read. And I actually, it reminded me, like, you know, I was like, I think I read this book maybe like 10 years ago, but I totally forgot about the principles and whatnot. And and it's the Think and Grow Rich by
Oh yeah.
Napoleon Hill. And I feel like that's a book, if you haven't read, if even if you're in business or not, it's just like, you know, as an owner, business owner, it's definitely something to read. And I was listening to one of Ed's podcasts recently, and he was interviewing, oh my goodness, John Maxwell. And then he talked about the 16 laws of communication. And that's the one that I am actually currently. And this one is a little harder because I feel like I'm always driving when I'm listening, and I want to stop to take notes because
Yeah.
there's so many like good nuggets. And so that's been like a book. Like I feel like we need to learn how to communicate, even though like I feel like I'm personable and things like that. But communication is so huge in any business that we do. It's either talking for our friendships and relationships, but also for our business. So that's something that I am, you know, big on it. And, you know, not because, you know, I'm bragging so much about Ed, but the power of one more, it was very impactful to me because I feel like that's kind of how I've been driving my life. You know, I always feel like going that extra mile and, you know, doing one more thing. So, so that would be some of the books that I would recommend for people to go check it out.
Oh, those are great. Power of One More, amazing. I want to read that 16 rules of communication or
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Communication. He has a
yeah,
leadership one too, but
that's
this
right.
one is
That's right.
communication.
Because I saw that podcast too, and I actually, funny enough, the other day I was in my tabs, and I still have the tab open to buy that book, but I haven't
Mm.
bought it yet. And so I need to get. This is a
Yeah,
good
go get
reminder
it.
to get that
You're
one.
gonna love it.
Oh yeah, that's so good. And those are great because I always love kind of hearing what people are reading too, because it's, you always hear like a lot of the people who are just super impactful, building big businesses. Everybody seems to be a reader, always
Yeah,
consuming, kind of controlling what they put in their mind, which is just so beneficial to success. Like just continuing to grow and get to the next level. And I can tell that that's something that you do a lot
Yeah,
of it kind of,
absolutely.
yeah. But what kind of on the topic of, mindset as well, what would you say is one of the most important skills, or maybe the most important skill that you've developed over your amazing business career so
Mhm.
far?
Oh, that is a great question. I feel like, the biggest one, it's sometimes you got to be your biggest cheerleader, like hands down. And it's a tough mindset when you're trying something new. You're getting either critics from your family or from your friends, or even people that don't even know you, especially if you are investing on social media. Everybody has opinions, right? So I think it's just kind of, that mindset of believing in yourself. So, I am a big believer of like also being visual, so I do those vision boards, and some I'm currently changing my office, so I'm starting to actually print out a lot of the things that I want to be looking at every day, and I spend a lot of time in my office. So I just feel like, so my mindset is just that we all are can be very weak, things will hit us emotionally, physically, whatever may be going on, a phone call you get. And so I need those visuals to be a constant reminder, and that's what works for me, to start to stay on track on the good days and on the good and on the bad days, right? So I would say like that's kind of what, helps me a lot. It's just kind of the visual for my mindset, recentering, as needed.
Oh, that's huge. So big. I like to do that too. I'm a vision board guy. I also got like a gratitude board. I like to like put
Ooh.
people and stuff on there and look at that every day. But also on the same thing, like I think it's so big to just remind yourself of things that you want to do. Like I like to have on my phone. I'm a big reminders person. You probably look at my calendar and be like, "You're crazy, dude." Like, but half of it's like just things I want to remember. Like have faith, like that everything's working
Mhm.
for you. Like, and just the miracle that we are as humans, right? Like the miracle, like just kind of just things to remind myself of gratitude and having faith, and just because you never know what day you're going to need to see it, right? Like you kind of talked about, there's going to be bad days, and it's like when I see that on a bad day, I can shift it because I'm like, okay, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I shouldn't like be going down this rabbit hole because maybe I'm not going to wake up tomorrow, or like there's people that don't get to wake up tomorrow. And so I think that that's so cool that you have those like visual things that just drive you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, I feel like fate is, I mean, I'm a person of faith, so like, it's huge. I mean, writing down sometimes, some goals. I have like journals that I'm just like, man, this is crazy when this happened, So it continues to build up your faith for today's issue or whatever it is. And I think, that recenter of the mind, the gratitude, and all of that, when there is a problem, it helps you try not to go just on the emotions, and obviously I say we can have those days, but it just kind of helps, just like, is it really as bad as it looks, um just give you some perspective, and also, like, what am I going to do about it, so it just kind of tries to help out so we don't stay on that zone for too long, because those are draining, let's be honest.
Oh, so draining. It can spiral into like a week, and then all of a sudden you're like, you wake up, you're like, wait, what am I doing? It's so easy for that to happen because I think it's contagious both ways, right? Like that good mindset's contagious, and
Yeah,
it can be easy to build that momentum. And then also the same thing with kind of rough habits and maybe a poor mindset, a negative mindset. I think you can build momentum in that direction too, and then it's like so difficult to shift
exactly.
away. But what have you dealt with mindset struggles throughout the years, or like, what kind of mindset struggles? I'm sure you probably, like everybody, dealt with some struggles. And can you explain kind of what you did to overcome those, get through those, just when those do come up?
Yeah, no, I'm being, completely transparent. I feel like sometimes one of my biggest struggles is just like, the self-worth, or it just like, or other people's, what they think about me, their opinions, right? I come from a culture that, what your family says, it's always so heavy, and it could totally, build or break. And so as I've been, growing from that, those are things that I kind of had to put some boundaries, around those things, even if people might still say things, but just like, how do I process that, before I would, something that my mom would say, or maybe a close friend, or an uncle or something like that. And I would say mostly was more like that recognition. I wouldn't say that I was like overachiever, but I feel like, I was always trying to do things for my family to be proud, but not necessarily because I felt like I should do that. Now, fast forward to be an adult, that has changed, but that was kind of like some of my motivation to be a good student, to be the best in whatever I was trying to do. It was more to get recognized by them. So, as we all know, you grow up and you carry some of those things with you from your childhood, and a lot of our challenges today all comes from that. So that's been kind of one of the things that have been super helpful for me actually in the last year. I hired a life coach, and it's been like amazing. I It's different than therapy. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like it's not like you come and you just sit in a chair and you just share about your life's problems. This is just like actionable. Let's deal with this part, that something that happens in your life let's release it. I feel like this last year it's probably been one of the biggest growth year for me in my entire life. So definitely recommend that. Obviously, not every life coach out there it's probably amazing, but just make sure you need to be challenged. I feel like we sometimes we want a venting session. That's not what you're paying people, like to spend time with. That do that with your friends. But so I think that's been a huge thing for me, just dealing with things from the past, um small or big, and make me understand why I act the way I act. And it's been so much freedom that I have got from some of those areas, especially on the touch of like, on my worth. If someone, social media is so huge right today. If someone makes a comment, if someone likes, or if they don't, or if your best friends go and get a different realtor to go sell their home, so it's just all of these things that you just kind of like you need to rise above. And it's been painful in the beginning because we don't want to deal with those things that are on the closet, but as working through it with a professional and helping you, it's been like an amazing journey.
It's amazing. No, I think that's something that most people probably struggle with and are afraid to go at, right? Go at
Yeah.
that path. It's so scary. And just that trauma that everybody's dealt with can be a lot of baggage to carry around. Is there any exercises that you've done or that you're willing to share that have helped you to have like more self-worth and to kind of
Mhm.
be able
Mhm.
to drop that baggage or some of those anchors that have been holding you back?
Yeah, some of it was actually just taking the time to go right. When did I felt those moments in my childhood, right? What did trigger me to feel that way, right? And some of it might kind of go back to our parents, right? So it was just things either mom or dad said, and then even looking now, how am I still walking my life on a daily life based on something that I kept telling myself, or the situation, right, that was in it. So I think which again I know is something we don't take. It's time to be with ourselves. So and writing, I feel like it was a big thing for me too, because we can think, but then when you start thinking, something else comes to your mind, and now before you know, you're just sidetracked. But just nothing crazy, even if it's just giving yourself a half an hour, but with that question and just writing and going deeper, for you to understand when did it started. Can you go there and then just see what you've been acting. I feel like it was a lot of like a awareness moment, aha moments that I got by doing exercises like that. Why am I acting this way? you know and then kind of taking that step back. you know I would have remembered things that I never remembered before from my childhood. And it was just like, wow, it makes total sense why I'm acting this way. But then when you do, obviously it was a habit that I've been doing for a long time. But it gives you some clarity that there is a place to work, and then now you have the awareness of why you're acting the way it is. So I feel like sometimes when I act out of fear, or I act out of like that self-worth, it triggers quickly because now I know. Before I was just doing it and not realizing it. So now quickly I can recuperate myself, where I can be like, oh, this is how I act. Or when I don't as well, I recognize that I didn't do that habit that I was doing before.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you're kind of almost like conscious to like
Hmm.
why, not only the things that you're doing, but why you're doing them from your
Exactly.
past. And so then you can kind of catch yourself and reframe it or maybe take a different path.
Exactly. It's a work in progress, but I
Yeah.
have to say it's been huge.
I love it. That's really cool. That's something that I've definitely been working through as well. Like letting go as well has been a huge thing. And I've found for me that like I've had to train myself to be present to like help myself let go of like the past and let go of things that when you're like you talked about, your mind just starts going in these tangents and they're just really unproductive. And I found like meditation and just like trying to be more mindful and stuff like that has allowed me to almost be more awake going throughout the
Yeah.
day. And it just makes those shifts so much easier. Is that something you do as well? Like anything to like work on being present so you catch yourself, or are you just pretty present as is?
Yeah, no, I feel like it's very hard with day to day, being working and family and all the different activities that we can be on, that it's so I like to have my quiet time, as I label it, in the morning, because I feel like that's the best time that I can be no noise, just me. If it's setting my prayer, if it's reading something positive, or listening to something positive. Meditation is also obviously a big thing, because what I learned even in the beginning when I was trying to do that exercise, like, to be still and to be quiet in your mind is going bananas. Then just like, no wonder why, we're going to life like this, because, our mind is constantly like, what about this? What about that? You should do this. And then when you're trying to just, obviously it takes harder in the beginning, because it's this constant like rework, come back to yourself, because your mind is trying to drive you. It's just kind of taking ownership of you driving your life.
I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. So much good stuff. Like again, I appreciate you coming on, and a few more questions for you,
Sure.
Amanda. I know you've talked about leadership a few times on the podcast already as well. How, when your first business, you were looking for the right people, right?
Mhm.
And then I know you said you skyrocketed through just the ranks of your tech consulting company as well to leadership roles pretty quickly. And then now I know you manage, I think you said like 60, is it?
16, but
16.
growing. That's my goal. That's my goal for the
We're
next
putting
six
it into the
months.
future for you.
That's
We're
right.
putting it
That's
in
right.
there.
I like it.
But managing 16 people, I'm curious on just the side of leadership. Like, what are some of the best things you've learned, or some of the best tips for managing people?
Yeah. I mean, like, I try to be always very open and honest, like, I am a straightforward person, but I feel like I always want to drive that with kindness, like, even if I'm going to tell you need to improve something, it's not going to come and just like, do better kind of, that's not, has never been. So, things that my team always say, like, they know that I'm always advocating for them. So that's something, from the beginning, I might be the one that is like, shoulder to shoulder, trying to understand what your needs are and things like that, until I can feel like, you can go on your own, but I'm not going to be holding your hand forever. So I think it's just like, getting to know who you're working with. Right. And I feel like I try to be like, I can be your friend, but when I need to be your leader, I'll take that step up, and just, because in the end of the day, especially with the business that I have today with real estate, it's just like, I am not here to force you to do anything that you don't want. This is a completely different than when I was in consulting and we had a task to do, right? So now it's, we are all adults, and it's just like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? I'm going to help you build all of that, but it's still going to take you to take the steps towards, what do you want to achieve. So I think it's just more like when the more and more you grow and you become a leader, you're giving tools, you're helping your team to see things that maybe they didn't see when they come in. I don't know how to do this, and hopefully it's something that may be an issue you already been through or worked through, that you can give that tip of like, hey, you can short this problem by just doing these two things, right? And sometimes work because people want the change and they go and do it, and other times they don't. So I definitely have that mix of, I'm providing the same value, I'm providing the same guidance, but people take differently, and I do try to adjust, right? Not everybody receive the same thing the same way. So I always try to be available as much as they need. But if they're coming back and asking the same question all the time, then it'd be like, hey, here's where you find things, instead of like, let's hop on a call again, so I'm just like, I love helping people when you see their potential. As I said, like, I that was what happened to me, so that's something that I always want to implement in whoever joins my team. Is just like, how can I help you scale? How can I help you go bigger than me? Like, there's no competition. There's no this like, you need to always be under my umbrella. No, the opposite. I want you to grow and explode. What can I do to help you get there?
That's awesome. And were you always kind of have that mindset as well, like wanting other people to propel higher than you? Because I just coming from a place of that's can be tough, right? At times, I
Yeah.
believe when you're competitive or you want to like, because I sometimes have found in my past, like it's like I want that, right? If that makes sense, where it's like I want people to succeed, but there's something in me that doesn't always allow that to come through. And so is that something
Mhm.
you've always kind of had, or did it come through at different points?
Yeah, I think, coming from a very, simple upbringings, I always felt like I had a little bit more than someone else, So with that in mind, I always felt like it can be a win-win situation for everybody, right? Obviously, there's sometimes like you see someone doing a little bit more and you can drive you, to work a little harder and things like that. But in general, I would say that I always have been to just like, there's room for everybody. It's okay if you want to be the best at it. And what it's going to take is just how much effort and work you want to, put on it. But yeah, I just feel like in any industry, there's room for anyone, as long as I feel like you're being kind and being honest with your communication. But now, if you're being just, a bad person out there with your business and you're trying to do shortcuts in a way that it's damaging other people's businesses and things like that in a bad way, yeah, that's not my motto.
No, I think that's great. And like I said, this has been absolutely amazing. So much gold, so much great advice. I appreciate you coming on. And before I get into the last question, I'd love for you to just kind of tell everybody where they can find you if they're in, which states again that you're in for real
Yeah.
estate, and where, they can connect with you if they are in those states, or, if they want to get into those states and want to buy a house, or if there's anything else that you provide that people could get in touch with you for.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to, to share a little bit about my story and where I'm at today. So yeah, licensed I am in Washington, but with my brokerage, it gives me opportunity to go global because we're like in 22, 23 countries or something like that. So I definitely want to expand to that. But on the production side, if you are looking to buy or sell, obviously in Washington, I'm here. Um, I am, have directly team members from my team in Florida, Texas, North and South Carolina, California, and Arizona. But I am part of even a bigger group that we do cover every state in the US. So if you need any services, let me know and I'll find, the best person in that state to support you. And, as you shared, I am growing my team. So I want to have someone directly that are working with me in all the different states. Either if you're like thinking of like, should I start real estate? What are my first steps? Or if you already are in real estate and you just want more support, definitely contact me. I'll say Instagram. It's been like the biggest platform that I've been investing most of my time. But obviously we have emails and phone numbers, and you can get in touch with me and getting a call. So do you want me to say it out loud, or do you
If you want to
post
say it,
it?
I'll put it in I'll put everything you want in the description as well, so that people can get in
Yeah, so
contact.
my handle on Instagram, as I said, that will be probably the quickest and fastest. I have Facebook and everything, but that's where I spend most of my time. It's Amanda Aguiar Official. So, if you start following me, I would love to know that it was because of this podcast. So, give all the kudos here to Alex for having me. But I would love to connect and honestly just help in any way I can.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And I'll put that in the description so you can get in touch with Amanda, and make sure if you are getting a house, get in touch with Amanda. She'll get you the best person in the area if she isn't in that area. And last question though for you.
All right.
You're a big traveler, right? You said you've been to over 22 countries. What is your favorite place to travel to, or where's the best
Oh
place
my
you've been to?
God. That is the hardest question. I mean,
Top
I've been,
three.
I know that this is hard. I would say, Italy has a little bit of a piece of my heart in there. Like I've been twice. Usually I try to go to a new country every year. That's my goal. But I have been there twice, just, it's a big country, just exploring. Um, hmm. I mean, I know it's kind of very close. I feel I love Europe. Like, it's so obviously if I don't say Brazil, I feel like people might just crucify me. Brazil is a beautiful country. It's so big. I've been exploring a little bit more because I left so young. And I'm kind of from the central, but like on the coast, on the beach side, on the northeast of it, go explore. The beaches in there are absolutely beautiful. And the food, it's amazing. So Brazil, Italy, and then I would say, last but not least, I definitely had like a aha moment when I went to France in Paris. Like I literally cried when I saw the Eiffel Tower because, just coming from Brazil from a simple family, it's just something I saw on TV. So I never thought I would, be traveling out there.
That's amazing. I love it. I need to get into more places. I definitely have not traveled much myself, but again, I appreciate you so much for coming on. This has been amazing. I've learned a lot. I'll be taking notes when I go through this again to
Thank
make
you.
sure that I can get this down. And yeah, make sure everybody that you go follow Amanda on Instagram, get in touch with her for your next home purchase. And if you enjoyed this, share this with a friend, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank
Amanda.
you. Really appreciate it. I'll see you later. Bye.